Imagine an army, outnumbered 3-1, sick with dysentery, exhausted from a long march, and trapped on foreign soil. They face a fresh, confident, and heavily armored force, ready for a glorious victory. By all logic, the smaller army should have been annihilated. Yet, what unfolded on that muddy field on October 25, 1415, would become one of the most astonishing underdog victories in all of history. How did this happen? The year is 1415. The 100 Years' War between England and France has been raging for decades. A young and ambitious king, Henry V of England, has crossed the Channel to press his claim to the French throne. His campaign begins with a long, grueling siege of the port city of Harfleur. By the time it falls, his army is decimated, not by battle, but by disease. Henry decides to march his weary men 8 days north to the English-held port of Calais, a desperate retreat. But the French have other plans. They amass a massive army, blocking Henry's path near the castle of Agincourt. For the English, there is no escape. They are trapped between two forests, facing a numerically superior French force on a freshly plowed field, turned too thick, clinging mud by heavy rain. The stakes could not be higher. For King Henry, it's not just his claim to the French throne on the line, but his life, his crown, and the very existence of his army. A defeat here would mean the end of his reign, and perhaps the end of English ambitions in France for a generation. For the French nobility, this is a chance to crush the English invaders once and for all. They are so confident of victory that they reportedly play dice for the English nobles they expect to capture and ransom. The air is thick with tension. The English, starving and sick, prepare for what many believe will be their final battle. The turning point comes before the first sword is even swung. The French, a sea of shining armor and noble knights, are impatient for glory. They are positioned on a narrow, muddy field, hemmed in by the forests. King Henry, a brilliant tactician, orders his men to advance just within bowshot. He then has them plant long, sharpened wooden stakes in the ground, creating a deadly fence to impale charging horses. Goaded by this English defiance, the French knights, weighed down by up to 50 kilograms of plate armor, begin their charge. But in the thick boot-sucking mud, their advance becomes a slow, exhausting slog. They become a disorganized, stumbling mass, a perfect target for the English longbowmen. What was meant to be a glorious cavalry charge turns into a death trap. The English archers, masters of their craft, unleash a storm of arrows. The sky darkens with up to 10,000 arrows every minute, piercing through the weaker points in the French armor. The first wave of French knights falls, their horses panicking, creating a horrific pileup of men and animals, blocking the advance of those behind them. The battle descends into a brutal, close-quarters melee in the mud. The lighter, more agile English soldiers, armed with swords and axes, wade into the floundering mass of French knights and systematically cut them down. The so-called flower of French chivalry is trampled and suffocated in the mud before many can even draw their swords. The Battle of Agincourt was a staggering English victory and a catastrophic French defeat. It was a victory of tactics over numbers, of discipline over arrogance. The lesson from that muddy field is timeless. Technology and strategy can overcome brute force. The English longbow, a simple piece of yew wood, wielded by common men, proved more decisive than the expensive steel armor of the French aristocracy. Agincourt showed that a well-led, determined force, even when facing impossible odds, can achieve the unthinkable. It reminds us today that overconfidence is a dangerous foe and that sometimes, the greatest victories are won not by the strongest, but by the smartest. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that shaped our world.